A Suncatcher cage is engineered to be easy to assemble by 2 people. There are only 2 hand tools that are needed to assemble the enclosure: a Phillips head screwdriver and a 7/16 inch regular wrench. Some other tools that you may find useful: a power screwdriver or drill with Phillips head bit to remove the screws from the shipping crate, a utility knife or a pair of scissors for removing packing materials, a step ladder, and a rubber or plastic mallet. Choose a level place to set the cage and build the cage in the location where it will be set. Collect all the tools that you will need. Unpack the shipping crate and take an inventory of the enclosure parts. The exact number and types of parts may be different depending upon the size of the cage and the accessories you ordered. Refer to the packing list for the complete inventory. A basic Suncatcher cage will have several triangular roof panels, a single door panel, several side panels, a pre-assembled roof rafter, a pre-assembled roof brace, a roof underside support plate, a roof cap, and a bag of hardware that will include 1 5-inch carriage bolt, several 5/8 inch screws, and 1 nut. Unpack all the parts and lay them near where the cage will be assembled. In order for all the parts of a Suncatcher enclosure to be assembled in their correct positions, it is very important that the parts be able to move a bit while they are being put together. Therefore, do not tighten any nuts or screws completely until the end of assembly. If at any point it is difficult to get a part to fit into place, check to make sure that all the screws, nuts, and bolts around that position are loose enough for the parts of the cage around them to move. All of the bolts and screws are stainless steel, which will expand when hot and not fit easily into the threaded holes they go into. So it is important to not let the hardware get too hot, and to not use a drill or power screwdriver to seat the screws. Forcing hot screws into position with a power tool may damage the enclosure. Use hand tools only to assemble the Suncatcher. Locate the door panel. The top of the door panel will have threaded bolt holes in the center. The outside of the panel will have 1 bolt hole, and the inside of the panel will have 2 bolt holes. Looking at the door panel from the inside, the left side of the frame will have round tubular hinges without pins. The right side will have round tubular hinges with stainless steel pins that are oriented up. Locate a side panel. The top of the side panel frame is the same as the door panel, with 2 threaded bolt holes on the inside and 1 on the outside. The type and positions of the hinges on the side panel are also the same as on the door panel. While one person holds the door panel in place, another person can line up the left side hinges on a side panel over the right side hinge pins of the door panel. Insert the top of the center hinge pin first because it is slightly longer than the upper and lower pins, but do not push it down. Line up the upper and lower hinges on the side panel over the pins on the door panel. Once they are in place, apply pressure to seat the pins fully into the hinges. Gently swinging the panel back and forth will help to seat the pins. If seating the pins is difficult, use a rubber or plastic mallet to gently tap on the top corner of the frame. Do not tap on the center of the frame. Only tap directly above the corner. Continue setting the side panels in place until the rough ring of panels is complete. The left side hinges on the door panel will be seating into the right side pins of the last side panel. Gently pull and push the panels until the shape of the cage is roughly symmetrical. Locate the pre-assembled roof rafter, which is the support bar with a bend in it. Locate the roof underside support plate with the 5/8" long screw and nut. Position the underside support plate on top of the brackets in the middle of the roof rafter with the tab of the underside support plate extending down on the outside of the bracket so that the hole in the center of the bracket lines up with the tab. Insert the 5/8" long screw through the hole in the roof rafter bracket and the tab from the inside of the center of the roof rafter. Thread the nut under the 5/8" long screw, but do not tighten the nut. The underside support plate should be able to move freely. Lift the roof rafter into place inside the enclosure. The roof rafter brackets will align with the threaded inserts at the top of two opposite panels. Any two opposite panels may be chosen as the span to install the roof rafter. While one person holds the roof rafter in position, another person can insert 5/8" long screws through the bolt holes in the brackets into the threaded inserts. Do not tighten the screws. Locate the roof brace, which is the pre-assembled bar with no bend in it. Lift the roof brace into place across the cage under and perpendicular to the roof rafter. If the roof rafter is connected to the panels at the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock positions, the roof brace should be installed at the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock positions. While one person holds the roof brace into position, another person can insert 5/8" long screws through the bolt holes in the brackets into the threaded inserts. Do not tighten the screws. Locate a roof panel. The wide end of the roof panel has a downward-oriented flange with an oval bolt hole in the center. The right side of the panel has an upward-oriented flange, and the left side has a bent channel with an open side facing down. Set the first roof panel on top of the enclosure immediately over one arm of the roof rafter so that the narrow end of the roof panel sets on top of the underside support plate and the oval bolt hole on the flange of the wide end of the roof panel is lined up with the threaded insert at the top of the cage panel. Thread a 5/8" long screw into the threaded insert through the oval bolt hole in the roof panel, but do not tighten the screw. Lift the next roof panel into place so that the raised channel on the left side of the roof panel sets over the vertical flange on the right side of the roof panel that is already in place. The tips of the two roof panels should be even with each other and resting on top of the underside support plate. The oval bolt hole in the flange on the wide end of the second roof panel should line up with the threaded insert at the top of the side panel. If the holes do not line up, adjust the position of the side panels so that the roof panel sits in the correct position. Thread a 5/8" long screw into the threaded insert through the oval bolt hole in the roof panel, but do not tighten the screw. Repeat the process of installing roof panels until there is only one roof panel left to install. Locate the roof cap and insert the 5" carriage bolt through the hole in the center from the convex side of the cap. Lift the roof cap and carriage bolt through the gap in the incomplete roof and insert the carriage bolt down through the space between the roof panel tips, the center of the underside support plate, and the bolt hole in the center of the roof rafter center bracket. Thread the nut onto the end of the carriage bolt, but do not tighten it. Install the last roof panel by carefully tilting the right side vertical flange under the left side channel in the roof panel on the right, carefully sliding the panel up so that the narrow tip rests between the underside support plate and the roof cap, and then lower the channel on the left side of the roof panel onto the vertical flange of the roof panel on the left. Seat the panel so the oval bolt hole lines up with the threaded insert on the outside of the side panel. Insert a 5/8" long screw, but do not tighten it completely. Inspect the Suncatcher enclosure to make sure that everything is aligned correctly. Make small adjustments as necessary, but at this point there should not be any big gaps anywhere in the cage. Now, all of the fasteners holding the cage together will be tightened. Use hand tools only. Start outside the enclosure and work your way to the center of the Suncatcher. Tighten the 5/8 inch long screws that secure the roof panels to the tops of the door and side panels. Tighten the screws in the brackets at the ends of the roof rafter and roof brace. Tighten the bolt that holds the underside support plate to the roof rafter bracket. Lastly, tighten the nut on the 5-inch carriage bolt in the center of the enclosure. The Suncatcher enclosure assembly is now complete. There may be some further steps to install accessories. Follow the instructions for those specific add-ons. If the position of the Suncatcher enclosure needs to be adjusted or the entire cage moved, 2 or more people should lift the entire cage from opposite sides to move it.